Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome back everyone. We are learning the basics of building construction, and right now we are learning the module on doors and windows. In the previous lecture we had discussed about the types of doors, and today we are going to discuss windows in detail. Just as a quick recap, what is a window? It's an opening which is formed in a wall or roof to provide visual access to outdoor spaces. It is fixed to a frame which is supported on that opening, and the primary use of windows is to allow daylight and natural ventilation into the indoor spaces in the building. So these are the component parts. We can have the head of a window, the sill, and within this we can have the framework like so. This frame is fixed into the wall with the help of holdfasts. In a door we required 6 holdfasts, here we are requiring 2 to 4. Within this framework, the shutter has vertical members called stiles, horizontal members called rails. So the rail can be top, bottom or intermediate rail depending upon its position, and within this is included panels if we are having a panelled window. The primary function of a window is to admit daylight and provide a view. It also allows for insulation against heat loss and in some cases against sound. Today, given that energy efficiency of a building is very important, fenestrations or the finish of the window is very important to decide how much heat gain or loss will happen in a particular space. So it's very important for us to select materials for windows and design the windows accordingly to ensure that is maintained. The windows also have to protect the internal spaces from weather elements. So rain, wind or other elements have to be stopped at the window while ensuring that we have daylight and the right amount of ventilation within our spaces. Fire safety is also an important factor. Air tightness is very important. We do not want to create windows which have gaps. Imagine what that would do in winter in an internal space. The aesthetics are also important because windows will give a very significant look to the aesthetic of the building. The facade will be determined a lot by the type of design that we have selected for our windows and also the material that we have selected for the same. While selecting the size, shape and location or determining the number of windows in a room, there are certain factors we should keep in mind. The first is the size of the room. Depending upon the size of the room, the area of the room, we have to decide what is the minimum number and area of windows that we have to provide in the walls. The location of the window is also very important in the room. It's not just from the point of view of cross ventilation. Definitely depending upon the orientation and the wind direction, we would want to see what is the position of the window to ensure easy ventilation, good light but not the glare of the western sun. But also from the point of view of furniture positioning. For instance, the location of the window in a kitchen can impact the way we place our burner. In a bedroom, it will determine where we can place our headboard of the bed. So depending upon the position of the window, the furniture layout will also accordingly change. The utility of the room, that is what is the purpose or function that this room serves, based on that also we might select the type, number or even the look of the window. The orientation of the wall, how much light do we want this wall to allow, how much weather elements will be affecting it, which direction it is in is very important for us to consider. Other climatic conditions like humidity, temperature, the prevalent wind direction has to be considered as well. The requirements of the exterior view are another important parameter. Let's say we are providing windows in a living room and we want a beautiful view of the garden outside. Accordingly, we would have selected a particular type of window design, or the size or area of the window will be changing accordingly. Now, based on the architectural treatment of the building exterior also, we might go for a certain shape or size of window and give it a certain look. Now, as a thumb rule, the breadth of the window should be 1/8 of the width of the room plus height of the room. Now, the total area of the window openings should vary from 10 to 20% of the total floor area, depending upon, of course, the climate conditions. The area of the window openings should be at least 1 square meter for every 30 to 40 cubic meter volume of the room. So that means it's very important for us to first see the size of the room, the area and volume of the room, and then accordingly decide how much area we need to give in the walls as openings for windows. In public buildings, the minimum area of windows should be more. It should be 20% of the floor area. For sufficient natural light, the area of glazed panels should be at least 8 to 10% of the floor area. Let's now take a look at details of window frames. They are distinguished by the type of material and construction method that we use. We can go for timber window frames, steel or aluminium sections. So this is an example of timber wooden frame. We can see how there is a rebate created in this wooden member to receive the glass for the glazed portion of the window. We can also go for steel sections or even aluminium framed ones, which are becoming increasingly popular these days. Aluminium framed sliding windows are a very common choice in today's residences. Now, what are the benefits of using metal frames for our windows as opposed to timber ones? Now, generally these members are mass manufactured with greater precision and quality control. They exhibit elegant appearance and finish. They have a very clean, sharp edge. They are stronger and more durable than wooden windows. So, seasonally, due to weather effects, contraction and expansion will be negligible in this type of frame. It's resistant to rot and termite. They are highly fire resistant. They are more effective for light and ventilation because they are thinner in section. Wooden frames are much more thick and they are taking up much greater area when we look at the window opening in totality, whereas metal frames will take up lesser area. So, they actually provide more opening for light and ventilation through a particular window. Now, they grant better facilities for providing different openable parts. So, we can have a very complex design with multiple openable parts in a window if we use metal members, and they are also easy to maintain and the cost of maintenance over time is minimal. They will also not require multiple rounds of painting in regular number of years as in case of a wooden frame. Now, let's dive into types of windows. We have quite a few types, each in its unique shape and mode of operation. So, we will take a look at each of them in detail, but let's first see the list. So, the first type is called fixed windows. As the name suggests, it doesn't open. The second is called pivoted windows. We have double hung windows, sliding windows, casement windows, sash windows, louvered windows, very similar to louvered doors, metal windows, bay windows, clear story windows, corner windows, dormer windows and gable windows, more applicable in pitched situations, lantern windows and skylights. We can also have ventilators and a combination of window and ventilators together. So, let's get started with each of these types. So, the first we are going to talk about is fixed windows. Now, fixed windows are fixed as the name suggests and they cannot be opened. They are mainly provided for admitting light and providing visibility in a room. So, we are not trying to get any ventilation. These are located in positions where they do not need to be opened. They just want to allow light into that internal space. So, if it is being provided in a space in our building where we do not require any functionality in the room, maybe we do not need ventilation because it's not a habitable space, it is in a space where we just need light or external visibility. The window consists of a frame and fixed shutters. The shutters are fully glazed. Now, we do not want to provide a fixed window with opaque shutter, right? Because the whole purpose is to have visibility, because ventilation is not one of the functions this window is going to perform. So we definitely want to give a fully glazed fixed window. Now no rebates are therefore required in the frame, because the shutter is not going to open. So the rebate for the provision of receiving the shutter doesn't have to be provided in this type of window. So if we see in the section, we can see the window frame. There will be a certain style. Within this style, the glass pane is fixed. So these are the styles, and this fixed shutter, which is fully glazed, will be within it. The second type of window is called a pivoted window. Now here the shutters are allowed to swing around the pivots fixed to the window frame. Now the window frame has no rebates. The shutters can swing or rotate either horizontally or vertically. So in case of vertical pivoting, this is how it will look. In case of horizontal pivoting, this will be the look. So what is happening is that the shutter is basically moving along a central pivot. Hence the name pivoted window. The next type is called double hung windows. This consists of a frame and a pair of shutters. The two shutters can slide vertically over each other and are held together within grooves which are provided in the window frame. Now this allows to control ventilation effectively, because we can actually slide these shutters vertically one above the other. So we can actually control the ventilation that is coming into the space. Now each sash is provided with a pair of metal weights which are connected using a cord or chain over pulleys, and this is fixed to the frame. Now when the weights are pulled, the shutters can be opened to the required level. Now special frame called boxed frame or cased frame is provided in this case, and it consists of two vertical members, a head and a sill. Now small wooden piece is provided in the groove of the frame to keep the weights apart. So we can see here how in a double hung window we can use weights for the sliding action of the windows. So this particular type will also have glazing within its shutters. The next type of window is the sliding window. This is very similar to sliding doors. These shutters can move either horizontally or vertically on small roller bearings, though nowadays in construction the horizontal example is more commonly seen. Now adequate openings or grooves are incorporated into the frames or walls to accommodate the shutters when they slide open. The main disadvantage with this type of window is that at least one shutter sized portion will always remain closed. Now unlike sliding door, when we can slide the door beyond the face of the opening, in case of sliding window that option is not there. It is always going to be contained within this opening. So definitely we cannot open the entire window. We always will have to keep at least one shutter sized portion of this opening closed. Now aluminum frame sliding windows are increasingly becoming popular in construction today. They are also a very affordable option. The next type of window is called the casement window. It is a most common type of window, and the shutters of the windows open like doors. The window has a frame which is rebated to receive the shutters, and the shutter consists of stiles, top, bottom and intermediate rails, and we can divide the shutter into smaller panels. Now the panels in this case can either be unglazed, that is opaque, they can be glazed or made up of glass, or partly glazed also, that is maybe the upper two panels are glazed, the lower ones are unglazed. So as we can see here, this is the head, the sill, and we have the top rail, the bottom rail, and in between we have the intermediate rail. We have the two stiles on the side, and the overall window is fixed with the help of holdfasts. We also have horns in the end, in the frame. In case of casement windows, depending upon the number of shutters we are having, we can classify it according to the same. So we can have side hung single shutter casement windows. This is an example. One single shutter is provided. We can also have two shutter casement window. Here we have two shutters. In this we can also introduce a mullion in between to vertically divide this window opening into two parts. We can have another situation in which we have the casement window followed by a dead light in the side. The dead light is a fixed portion. This part cannot be opened. And we can also do a combination of some vent light in the top and shutters in the bottom half of the window. So it's a casement window with vent lights. Sash or glazed windows is a type of casement window, but here the panels are always fully glazed. Now the frame of each shutter consists of two vertical stiles, and we will definitely have a top and bottom rail. The space between the top and bottom rail is divided into small panels by means of small timber members. Now these timber members which divide this entire portion into smaller panels is called sash bars. Now sash bars can be placed both horizontally as well as vertically, and glass panes, these are also called the window panes, are fixed into the sash bars with the help of putty, or we can also use timber beads. Now if the window opening is wide, the frame may be centrally divided with the help of a vertical member which is called a mullion. And similarly, if we have a very big height of the window, or say for example we want a window with a ventilator on the top half, then we can also use a horizontal member to further subdivide this opening, and this horizontal member is called the transom. So this is where we have the horizontal transom, the vertical mullion. Now these members which are dividing the space of the shutter into small window panes, these are the sash bars. Now within the sash bar, the glass pane can be fixed with the help of putty, or we can also use beads to fix this glass within this portion. The next type of window is louvered windows. It is very similar to louvered doors that we had seen in the last lecture. So it is provided to achieve ventilation without providing any view of the outside. Now the shutters consist of top and bottom rails and two sides. Now these tiles will have to be grooved to receive the louvers. So along the sides of the stiles we will have to have multiple grooves at regular intervals within which we can fix the louvers which are equally spaced out. Now the louvers are generally fixed, and we try to keep the inclination downwards at a slope of 45 degree. Now why we want a downward slope is because otherwise the rainwater from outside can come in through these if they are facing upwards towards the outside. Sometimes Venetian shutters may also be provided. In this case the louvers can be opened or closed. So for that we actually need a vertical member which is in the form of a batten, which is connected to all the louvers, and it allows us to vertically move the position or change the angle of these louvers. So the louvers may be made up of slates of wood or aluminium. They may also be made of glass. They are pivoted at both ends in the frame, and in addition each blade is connected by a small hinge to this vertical batten we were talking about, which can be used to open or close these louvers. So this is how louvered windows will look like. In this case this is a fixed louvered situation. In this case all the louvers are equally spaced out and fixed in grooves in the stile. But if we have vertical members which allow us for movement, they are the Venetian louvered windows. Metal windows are also very commonly used in public buildings because of their strength, less cost than wood, and also they require less maintenance over the lifetime of the building. They may be made of aluminium, bronze, stainless steel and other elements. Commonly used angle sections, T sections, Z sections or channel sections are popular in constructing this type of window. They can be fixed directly into the masonry opening, or it may be fitted in a wooden frame that is already provided in that opening. So this is how different metal members can be used to create windows. They may be glazed. We also might have some portions which are opaque, but popularly glazing is done in most of these panels. We can fix the position of the glass with the help of putty, like so. There are some cases, for example, in aluminium option, we can also use beads which are available to fix the glass in its position. So how do we go about fixing metal frames? So first of all, the opening in which it has to be fixed is cleared and the position is marked by chalk lines. The distance of fixing holes are measured on frames and marked on the opening of the wall. The holes are cut in brick masonry to accommodate the holdfasts. The frame is placed in the opening, and after aligning it properly, the lugs are screwed tightly to the frame. The lugs are grouted in the holes with the help of cement mortar, and finally, after the grout has set, the space between the opening and the frame is filled with cement mortar. The next type of window is slightly differently shaped as opposed to the previous examples. This projects out from the external wall of the room. So these are called the bay windows. Now this projection that we are making towards the outside may be triangular, it may be circular, rectangular or polygonal in plan. Based on the architectural design that we are going for, we can select a particular shape for the bay window. Now this is provided to achieve an increased area of opening for admitting greater amounts of lights and air. They also provide a wonderful architectural opportunity to create sitting spaces at the internal portion of the room. This allows us a space where one can create a sitting space or a storage space near the window opening. A lot of light and ventilation can be received in this area. So as opposed to having only the opening size which was available to us as per the plan, we are extending this beyond the face of the building and creating a greater opportunity or greater surface area through which we can admit light and air into our spaces. Now clerestory window is the next type. This is provided in rooms which has greater ceiling height than the surrounding rooms. Now generally these are provided near the top of the main roof and are open above the lean-to roof or roof slab of the adjoining space. This swings on two horizontal shutters provided on each side stiles. It can be opened or closed by means of two cords, one attached to the top rail and the other to the bottom rail of the shutter. Now the shutter swings in a way that the upper part opens inside the room. Now it has to open always inside the room as opposed to the outside, because if it had opened outside the room, it is possible for the rainwater to enter into this space. Even though there is a sunshade provided, we always have to ensure that this type of window opens into the internal space. It requires some amount of rain shed or chhajja over the window, because we also have to keep in mind that this is much higher up in height. The next type is called corner window, and as the name suggests, this type of window is provided at the corner of the room. Now the advantage of this window is it has two faces and in two different directions. So it's allowing air and light from different directions. So if we are at a juncture where we do not have a structural member in a particular corner of the room, like a column, we may opt for this type of window where we provide a corner window and we are able to get light and ventilation from two perpendicular directions at the same time. So depending upon the time of day, that can give us an advantage. The next type of window is called dormer window. Now this is a vertical window which is provided on the sloping roof. So we can only have dormer windows in case of a house in which we have given a pitched roof or a sloping roof. Now this provides ventilation and lighting to the enclosed space below the roof and improves the appearance of the building. So this is the position of the dormer window on the sloping roof. Another type of window is possible only in the case of a pitched roof, and that is called the gable window. Now this vertical window is provided in the gable end of the pitched roof, which is this side. So the dormer window and the gable window are only possible in case of a pitched roof house. The lantern windows are provided over flat roofs to allow more light and air to come inside, and this window actually projects over and above the roof level. Now they may have different shapes in plan. For example, we can see a rectangular option. We can have another ones which is covered by sloping faces. So we can pick different shapes for our lantern windows, but they are provided on flat roofs and they allow entry of light and air from the top of the roof level. The skylight is similar to a lantern window, but this is provided at the roof level to admit light. It is projected above the roof surface. Normally it is inclined in this way. The common rafters in the slope roof are suitably trimmed and the skylight is erected on the curb frame. This is the curb frame. LED lashing is also provided on the sides. For waterproofing, we can also add LED gutter in case rainwater comes and collects. This can allow it to be drained off. Now ventilators are small windows which are fixed at 30 to 50 centimeter below the roof level. This is inside the room, of course. It's not opening up above the room. So it's just slightly below the roof level and opening inside the room. It has a shutter and a frame which is generally glazed or louvered, and it can be vertically or horizontally pivoted depending upon the height that we are dealing with or the position it has been placed in for easy operation. We can also, instead of using glazing, go for a jali. In this case, it can of course not be opened or closed. The jali will just allow a certain amount of ventilation from that height. Finally, we can go for a combination of ventilator with a window or door, a fan light. So this may be provided in continuation of a window or door at its top. This is also called a fan light and it is very similar to a sash window. Usually it is hinged at the top. They open outwards to the external face. Alternatively, we can also go for a portion of attachment or hinge at the lower face, in which case we have to be careful at which side this opens up. We do not want to open a window upwards towards the external face of the building. If we are opening it upwards, it has to be towards the inside to ensure rainwater doesn't come in. So those were the different types of windows that we can use in our buildings. Let's learn a little bit about the fixtures and fastenings that are used in doors and windows. So mostly the fixtures can be classified as hinges, bolts, handles or locks. Now we can have several types of hinges that we can use in our doors and windows. The back flap hinge, the butt hinge, counter flap hinge, garnet hinge and the Narmadi hinge. We can also have parliamentary hinges, pin hinge, rising butt hinge, strap hinge and spring hinge. So there are quite a few types of hinges that are available. We'll take a look at all of them. In case of bolts, we can also have multiple options. So we can have L-drop, barrel bolt, espagnolet bolt, flush bolt, hasp and staple bolt, latches and hook and eye, which is used to stop windows in their open condition. Back flap hinge, this is what a back flap hinge looks like. It is used where shutters are thin, fixed to the back side of the frame and shutter. The butt hinge is used for fixing doors and window shutters to the frame, and they are made up of cast iron, malleable iron or steel with countersunk holes. The counter flap hinge looks like this, formed in 3 parts and has 2 centers allowing leaves to be folded back to back. The garnet hinge, also known as a T-shutter, has a long arm that is screwed to the shutter and a short arm which is screwed to the door. It is used for ledged and batten doors, ledged and braced doors, etc. The Narmadi hinge is used for heavy doors. The flange or strap of the hinge is fixed to the door shutter, while the pin on which the strap rotates is fixed to the frame. So this pin is fixed to the frame. The parliamentary hinge permits door shutters when open to rest parallel to the wall. So they can be opened up all the way and they can rest parallel to the wall, and they are used when opening is narrow or the opening is required to be kept open without obstruction. The pin hinge is used for heavy door shutters. The center of the pin of the hinge can be removed and the 2 leaves of the hinge can be fixed separately to the frame and shutter. The rising butt hinge is provided with helical nickel joints, due to which the shutter is raised by 10 mm or being opened. Now, useful in case of we are dealing with rooms with carpet flooring, because it will raise this particular shutter by 10 mm on being opened because of this portion. So, the carpeting that is being done in the internal space will be accommodated for and will allow easy movement of the door without getting stuck on the carpet every single time. The strap hinge is a substitute of the garnet hinge or T hinge, and it is also used in case of the ledged and braced doors or for heavy doors such as garage doors, stable doors, etc. So, this is what the strapped hinge looks like. Spring hinges can be single acting or double acting spring hinges, and they are used mostly for swinging doors. Now, single acting hinges are used when the door shutter opens only in one direction, and double acting hinges are used when the shutter swings in both directions. Now, let us see how bolts, handles and locks can be classified. So, the types of bolts include L-drop, which is fixed on external doors where padlocks are used. So, this is a very popular type that we see in our residences. The barrel bolt is used for fixing back faces of the doors. This is what it looks like. The socket is fixed to the door frame while the plate is screwed to the inside of the shutter. So, that is how in the door frame we can lock the shutter. The espagnolate bolt is used for securing high doors and casement windows, and this is what it looks like. The flush bolt is used when it is desired to keep the bolt flush with the face of the door. The hasp and stable bolt is used for external doors where padlock is required. Latches are made up of malleable iron or bronze, and they are fixed to the inner face of the shutter. The hook and eye is used for keeping the window shutter in position when the window is open. So, it is kind of like a stopper. So, every time the wind blows, the window shutter will not come crashing into the frame. The hook and eye can keep it locked in its position. Handles can also be of different shapes and sizes. This type is called the bow type. The bow type can also have an alternative shapes, even square shapes are possible. These are commonly used in wardrobes. We can also have lever handles and door handles of different types. Locks can also be of different types. We have the mortise lock, rim lock, cupboard lock, lever type lock and padlock. Now, in case of the padlock, we will have to have the right kind of bolt used so that we can fix the lock in the frame. So, that was all the types of fittings and fixtures that we can use in our doors as well as windows. Before we end this lecture and this module on door and windows, let us take a quick recap. So, what are the type of windows that we could possibly have? Fixed windows, pivoted windows, double hung windows, sliding windows, casement windows, sash windows, louvered windows, metal windows. Bay windows are also possible, clear story windows, corner windows, dormer windows, gable windows, lantern windows, and finally skylights, ventilators and combination of window and ventilator. So, those are the various types of windows that we have taken a look at today. Fittings and fixtures can be classified into hinges, bolts, handles and locks. In case of hinges, we can have back flap, butt hinge, counter flap, garnet, Normandy, parliamentary, pin hinge, rising butt hinge, strap hinge and spring hinge. Bolts can be L-drop type, barrel bolt, espagnolate bolt, flush bolt, hasp and staple bolt, latches and hook and eye. Handles and locks can also vary in their shapes and sizes and applicability. These are some of the references. So, today we learnt about the different types of windows. In the previous lecture in this module, we had learnt about the different types of doors that we can use in our construction. So, this ends this particular module. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you soon.